No shouting, no scenes, no desperate pleas to turn back time. Just precise steps, calculated pauses, and a silence that cuts deeper than any blow. She wanted freedom, and she got it, but wrapped in something she never expected. While some play at honesty, others craft a plan down to the last comma. While one searches for themselves in someone else's arms, another turns pain into strategy and cold precision. He didn't argue, didn't fight at all. He simply vanished, leaving behind a trail of facts, records, and consequences louder than any goodbye. And when the truth surfaces not in fragments, but as a full dossier of evidence, one thing becomes clear. Revenge isn't a flare-up. It's a process. Calculated, quiet, emotionless, and it ends in a way there's no coming back from. When everything crumbles, only one question remains. Who really started it all? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. The storm hadn't broken yet, but the sky over Southridge pulsed with the threat of violence. Inside a neatly kept two-bedroom house nestled on a quiet suburban street, Camilla Voss filled a wine glass nearly to the brim, her hand trembling just enough to betray her nerves. Her gaze slid to the kitchen clock. 23 minutes remained until Adrian, her husband of 5 years, would walk through the door, oblivious to the upheaval about to unfold. She wasn't lounging in her go-to comfort wear. The faded yoga pants and slouchy sweatshirt had been replaced. Tonight, she wore a fitted sleeveless top in deep emerald that highlighted her figure with quiet confidence. Her makeup was carefully done, not to seduce, but to unsettle. This evening wasn't about allure, it was about disruption. She was ready to shatter the stillness with something she had rehearsed over and over. For months, Maya had been her voice of provocation. Bold and unfiltered, her friend's advice had echoed like a war drum. Camilla, you've forgotten how it feels to be wanted. Marriage is only a cage if you let it become one. I've been there. Sometimes it takes an outside spark to light you back up. At first, Camilla dismissed the idea with a laugh, but the notion had rooted itself deep, taking hold during those long evenings when Adrian came home spent, dropping onto the couch without so much as a look her way. Was what she was doing fair? Probably not. But fairness hadn't been her priority in a long time. What she wanted, no, needed, was passion, attention, a reminder that she was still seen. Everything was orchestrated to the smallest detail. The lasagna, his favorite, was already in the oven. A chilled bottle of imported red waited in a silver bucket. She intended to soften the moment, create a familiar comfort before delivering the words that would change everything. Then her phone buzzed. A message lit up the screen. Tonight's the night. Be the fire, not the ashes. He'll bend or he'll burn. Maya's words stared back at her. Camilla read them twice. A pang of doubt nudged its way in, but she drowned it with another swallow of wine. This was about rediscovering herself, or at least, that's what she kept telling her reflection. At exactly 6:02 p.m., the front door groaned open. The sound of boots echoed on the hardwood. Adrian stepped in, rain-speckled and tired, work bag slung over his shoulder. His eyes took in the table, the meal, the wine. Wow, he said, slowing. Did I forget an anniversary? Camilla forced a smile and handed him a glass. Something like that. He accepted it, watching her with growing unease. Everything okay? I will be, she said softly, motioning for him to sit. They ate in near silence. The food was perfect. The silence was not. A thick tension settled between them. When Camilla finally set her fork down, the air felt heavy with unspoken things. Adrian, there's something I need to say. He tensed instantly. What is it? She took a measured breath. I need more. Not necessarily from you, but from life. From myself. He blinked, unsure. What do you mean? I feel like I've faded into the background. Not unloved, just unseen. Like I've become invisible. She hesitated, then added, Maya. His expression twisted. Maya? Camilla, she treats Tinder like therapy. She reminded me how short life really is, Camilla pressed on, ignoring the jab. And I've made up my mind. I need a little time. A couple of months, maybe. I want to try something new. Adrian's eyes narrowed. He leaned back, his voice now quieter. You're not being vague by accident. Say it plainly. The words stuck in her throat, but she forced them out. I want to see other people. He froze, mid-sip. His wine glass hung suspended. So, you want a divorce? No, she said quickly, her voice edged with urgency. I still want us, just in an open way. For now. His reaction wasn't loud or volatile. No shouting, no slamming, just silence. Then he gave a slow, deliberate nod. You're asking me to accept infidelity. She winced. It's not about cheating. Don't dress it up, he said sharply, placing his glass down. Let's not lie to each other. I need this, for me, she whispered. He stood without anger, but his face had gone still, unreadable. Then I'll sleep in the guest room. Her mouth parted in disbelief. That's it? You're not going to say anything else? What's left to say? His tone was flat. You've made your choice. I thought maybe you'd try to fight for me. He laughed once, bitterly. Compete? Is that what this was supposed to spark? Then came a smile, thin, cutting. If you're lighting matches this close to the curtains, don't be surprised when the whole house catches fire. And with that, he turned and walked away. A door clicked shut behind him. Camilla stayed at the dining table, clutching her glass, her heart racing in her chest. His calm had unsettled her far more than rage ever could. And as he vanished into the guest room, she realized he hadn't slammed the door. He hadn't broken down. But something had shifted, something cold, something final. That night, she lay alone in their bed, the absence beside her a hollow she could feel in her bones. Sleep never came. Adrian had followed through. Without complaint, he'd relocated to the guest room. Camilla had anticipated liberation, maybe even a spark of excitement. Instead, what settled over the house was a thick, choking quiet that seemed to wrap around the walls and press inward. By sunrise, however, the remorse she'd felt the night before had been smothered beneath the rush of adrenaline and Maya's late-night affirmations. He didn't lash out? Perfect, Maya had said. Now he'll stew in that silence, realize what he's lost, and start groveling. Those words replayed in Camilla's mind like a song stuck on repeat. As she reapplied her lipstick in the mirror, she allowed herself a small, confident smirk. A part of her wanted to believe Maya was right. She told herself this wasn't infidelity, not really. It was more of a detour, a way to reconnect with the version of herself she'd lost, just a woman taking back her sense of self. At work, everything around her felt alive again. Colors seemed more vivid. Conversations sparkled with energy. That morning, she'd pulled on a dress she hadn't dared wear in years. By midday, the rumors had already begun to ripple through the office. That was when Evan, a soft-spoken consultant with soulful eyes and a poetic aura, sent her a message. You lit up the hallway this morning. Camilla hovered over her phone, debating. Should she send a smiling emoji, a polite reply, or something bolder? She chose bold. Maybe I dress like this for you now. His response came immediately. I'll take that as a yes. Everything moved quickly after that. They grabbed drinks the next night, and the night after. Soon, Camilla found herself concocting justifications not only for Adrian, but for herself. Being with Evan made her feel seen again. He noticed everything: the scent she wore, her laugh, the smallest shifts in her mood. Things Adrian no longer paid attention to. Camilla was laughing again, more than she had in years. Meanwhile, Adrian kept his distance. He didn't scream, didn't plead. He just watched. And he waited. Measured her. Adrian wasn't the type to talk things through. He built with his hands, read patterns, solved problems. And now, he was observing her with the same precision he brought to his work. The new lock screen on her phone. The way she flinched when it buzzed, the late-night showers, the stiffness in her shoulders whenever the doorbell rang. Camilla took his silence as detachment, but she was wrong. He wasn't retreating. He was planning. One afternoon, Camilla came home early and caught him in the garage, hunched over the workbench with tools and wires scattered around. The moment he noticed her, he shoved it all aside. She offered a hesitant smile. "Still burning the midnight oil out here?" Without looking up, he muttered, "Helps me think." But there was something in his posture, too calm, too methodical. It wasn't sorrow, it wasn't fury, it was control. Camilla turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. "You know this isn't permanent, right? I'm not trying to ruin everything." Adrian raised his eyes to meet hers. His face revealed nothing, but his stare held a quiet blaze. "You already did." Camilla didn't respond. She simply turned and went inside. The days began to melt into each other. Then, weeks. Her encounters with Evan became riskier. No more hidden venues. One rainy night, they ended up breathless in the back seat of his car, soaked and electrified by their recklessness. It was dangerous, intoxicating. But the rush came with shadows. Camilla began noticing small shifts. Veronica, a co-worker she barely knew, passed her in the hallway without a word. Then there was the sticky note left on her desk. "Be careful who's watching." Camilla chuckled nervously, until Maya called, her voice shaking. "Something's not right," Maya said. "I got a weird call. Someone's digging into everything." Camilla's stomach turned. "What do you mean, everything?" "Our lives. What we've been doing. Someone even contacted HR." Camilla's chest tightened. "You think it's Adrian?" Maya didn't hesitate. "You said he's gone quiet. That's exactly why I'm worried." Later that night, Camilla opened her laptop and noticed a new desktop folder labeled Camilla, Personal. Curious, she clicked. Her blood ran cold. Inside were screenshots, maps with GPS data, transcripts of messages, a spreadsheet labeled Encounters, confirmed.xlsx. This wasn't casual spying. It was meticulous, calculated, merciless. Panicked, she deleted the entire folder. But she knew it was pointless. Adrian had already seen everything. At 2:17 a.m., barefoot and trembling, Camilla tiptoed to the guest room and tapped on the door. "Adrian?" No answer. She pushed it open. The bed was untouched. His truck was gone. His clothes still hung in the closet. But he wasn't there. No note, no message. Camilla stood frozen in the hallway, clutching her phone like a lifeline. A cold realization washed over her. She'd sparked the blaze, and instead of erupting, Adrian had gathered the flames and vanished into the darkness with the fuel in hand. 2 full days passed in silence. No texts, no trace of him. Just a void. The emptiness became unbearable. The house, once shared, now echoed like a hollow cave. Sleep came in fragments, thin, restless fragments laced with fear. She kept telling herself he'd return, that he always had. But deep down, she knew. This time was different. He had always found solace in order. Routine was his anchor. But now, something was undeniably different. On the 3rd morning, an envelope appeared at their doorstep. No stamp, no return address. She tore it open on the kitchen counter, her hands trembling. Inside was a flawless white sheet with a typed note. "Camilla, I won't stand in your way. Just remember, Freedom isn't free. Stay alert. Just, hey. She read it again, then once more. What was it suggesting? She called Maya. No answer. Tried Evan. Nothing. Her fingers trembling, Camilla checked her phone for any missed messages. Social media, texts, voicemails, silence. Then her phone rang. An unknown number. She hesitated, then picked up. Mrs. Voss? A deep voice asked. Yes. This is Officer Trent with the Southridge Police Department. There's been a report concerning your vehicle. It was discovered submerged in Hillside Creek, several miles from town. We believe it was dumped intentionally. Her throat tightened. My car? That's not possible. It's in the garage. No, ma'am. The vehicle in your garage is your husband's truck. Camilla froze. Is he okay? She asked, her voice barely audible. He's not classified as missing. In fact, we spoke to him yesterday. He instructed us to inform you that all assets in your name and those connected to your joint estate are being reassigned. He's also filed a restraining order. You'll receive official notification from the court soon. Her legs buckled beneath her. Wait, what order? On what grounds? I'm unable to provide more information, ma'am. You'll need to speak with legal counsel. By mid-afternoon, her world had exploded online. Her name, her face, made public. It started with a file discreetly uploaded to the company's Slack channel, intended only for IT's internal inspection. Someone had forwarded it. No one claimed responsibility. It was short, a grainy video, dim lighting, whispered voices. Camilla's laugh, a man responding, the name Evan mentioned, her bedroom, their bed. The video didn't reveal much visually, but it didn't have to. Her voice, her laugh. The betrayal was unmistakable. And beneath it, a cold caption. Some vows collapse under their own weight. Others drag people down with them. When Camilla finally reached Maya, she knew the damage had already begun. They met that night in the shadowy lot behind a rundown liquor store. Maya looked pale, her usual spark gone. This is calculated, Maya said quietly. Adrian isn't just reacting. He's taking everything apart. What are you talking about? Camilla asked. He's hired people, maybe a whole team. My landlord got an anonymous message, videos, me and Landon, me and Derek, footage I didn't even know existed. Camilla's voice quivered. I found hidden folders on my laptop. He's been spying, dripping the evidence out piece by piece. I just got placed on leave. HR says they've launched a formal ethics investigation. Camilla stared into the darkness. You told me none of this would blow back on us. I said it'd be thrilling. You assumed that meant it was safe. That's not true. You said men move on. That self-assurance was sexy. Maya gave a dry, bitter chuckle. I was wrong. Adrian's not like most guys. He's methodical, cold. The next morning, Camilla was called into the boardroom. 4 people waited for her, someone from HR, a legal advisor, a woman she didn't recognize, and a man who appeared to be from corporate security. They offered her coffee. She declined. A thick binder was pushed toward her. Page after page, screenshots, timestamps, internal footage, chat logs with Evan, messages exchanged with Maya, calendar entries matched against equipment access logs. This evidence points to serious misconduct, including misuse of company property and possible ethical breaches, the HR rep said flatly. Camilla barely managed to whisper, "Where did all of this come from?" The room was silent, until the security officer finally spoke. We also received audio files from an outside source. Adrian, she choked. No one replied. They didn't terminate her on the spot. They called it pending review. But Camilla knew what that meant. She left the room unsteady, weighed down by humiliation. When she reached her house, her key no longer worked. The locks had been changed. And her belongings vanished. The boxes were already waiting on the front porch, each one carefully taped shut. On top of one, a note had been placed in full view, stark and unmistakable. You lit the fire. I merely stood back and let it burn. Enjoy the freedom you craved. Camilla collapsed to the ground on the welcome mat, surrounded by fragments of what used to be her life. This wasn't an impulsive outburst from Adrian anymore. It was strategic. And in that moment, Camilla finally recognized it for what it truly was. Revenge didn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it watched silently and kept records. She had never experienced this kind of cold, not even in the harshest winters. This chill didn't sting her skin, it seeped into her bones, settled in her chest like concrete, and replaced whatever pride she had left with a deep, gnawing dread. The items left outside weren't merely possessions, they were markers. Proof of the world she'd built, and of how meticulously Adrian had taken it apart. She dragged the boxes to Maya's apartment. Once inside, Camilla wandered the space aimlessly while Maya sat quietly. Eventually, Camilla broke the silence. "Have you heard from Evan?" Maya didn't meet her eyes. "His wife kicked him out." Camilla froze mid-step. "He was married?" "He told me they were separated," Camilla murmured, her voice unsteady. Maya finally looked up. "They always say that, when they want something that was never meant to be theirs in the first place." In just a few days, Camilla's reputation wasn't just damaged, it was publicly dismantled. Screenshots of suggestive texts she'd sent had surfaced on anonymous accounts, likely planted through Adrian's carefully orchestrated circle of allies. He never posted a single thing himself. He didn't have to. The crowd did the job for him. So she cheats and wants sympathy? Now she's posting tearful apology videos? You walked out on a good man and thought he'd stick around? The internet erupted in rage. Camilla tried to tell her side in a video, desperate to reclaim any piece of her story. But 2 minutes in, the wave of hate forced her to close the app. Adrian hadn't yelled, hadn't accused. He didn't have to. His silence cut deeper than any confrontation ever could. Then the legal documents arrived. Divorce, expedited. His attorney, Teresa O'Malley, had a notorious reputation. Elegant, calculating, impossible to rattle. A woman known for unraveling people's lives with effortless charm. Camilla faced her across a sterile mediation table, hands trembling. Teresa didn't raise her voice. "You're not entitled to anything," she said calmly. "No home, no car, no support. We've got the documentation, witness accounts, dates. Most importantly, intent." Camilla's voice broke. "But we were still married. He never told me to stop." Teresa's gaze hardened. "He handed you the rope, Ms. Voss. What you chose to do with it was entirely up to you." The court proceedings were swift. The judge barely looked in Camilla's direction. Adrian remained composed, saying nothing as the evidence spoke. Text logs, hotel invoices, video surveillance. When he finally addressed the court, his words were brief and deliberate. "My wife didn't betray me," he said evenly. "She made a decision to leave the marriage. I didn't interfere. I gave her what she asked for, freedom. In return, I got clarity. I didn't lose a soulmate. I let go of someone who was never truly mine." The room was still. Camilla looked at him, searching for any flicker of fury. There was none, only certainty, finality, and that quiet hurt more than any outburst ever could. That night, Camilla checked into a budget motel. Her phone buzzed, a message from Maya. "You okay?" She stared at the screen, numb. No, she wasn't okay. She'd lost everything. Her husband, her security, her career, her good name. And somewhere in that destruction, she couldn't shake the feeling that even Maya had let her down. She began to type. "You said this would feel empowering, that men always come back. Mine just scorched the earth." No reply came. Maya had her own problems to drown in. Rumors swirled that her husband was now pursuing full custody. Landon, that so-called harmless office affair, had disappeared from town without a trace. It felt like every man they'd entangled themselves with had left only wreckage behind. Sleep never came. Camilla kept replaying Adrian's parting words in her mind. "You lit the fire. I let it burn." The line circled her thoughts like a curse. She drank to drown it out, but it only echoed louder. What lingered wasn't just the consequences or the quiet. It was the fact that Adrian never gloated. He never sent a vindictive message, never rubbed it in. He didn't need to. He had already won. But revenge often leaves an echo, and sometimes even the one who walks away victorious doesn't fully close the door behind him. Camilla lay motionless on the rigid motel bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling where a malfunctioning light blinked sporadically, casting jittery shadows that fluttered like agitated ghosts. Every tick of the clock felt like a fresh verdict. Her life had dissolved into a blur of rejection emails, hushed conversations at checkout lines, and her name twisted into mockery across the internet. She was now that woman, marked, mocked, and infamous. She had become a cautionary tale, a walking scandal, a lesson. And Adrian? He had vanished into a world she was no longer welcome in. Whispers claimed he'd moved away, that he'd launched his own construction company. Rumors even suggested he was seeing someone else. Camilla couldn't make herself believe it. She clung to the tattered hope that maybe, just maybe, a sliver of their connection still lived. That perhaps his carefully constructed walls still had a crack. But truth has a sharper edge than dreams. 2 months later, she found herself across from a hiring manager at a dental office, nervously interviewing for a receptionist job. The manager gave a measured, polite smile. "Let me be direct, Camilla," she said gently. "We did look into your background." Camilla felt the breath go out of her. She'd known this was coming. "We try not to make assumptions," the woman added, "but we also contacted some previous employers. There were issues." Camilla offered a faint nod. "Thanks for your time." With her bank account nearly empty and her mind on the brink, she wandered aimlessly through the neighborhood where she and Adrian had once shared a life. The house was no longer theirs. The exterior had been repainted, the garden pruned with care, and cheerful flowers sat in pristine pots, every inch a revision, as if her existence had been deliberately erased. But Camilla hadn't returned for nostalgia. She came looking for something Adrian had never granted her. Closure. He hadn't yelled. He hadn't accused or begged. There were no late-night texts or desperate voicemails. He'd simply shut the door, and that cold, surgical silence haunted her more than any violent goodbye ever could. One rainy night, Camilla wandered into a packed bookstore where a guest speaker was delivering a talk on reclaiming life after collapse. She slipped into the last row, drenched and invisible. The speaker didn't coddle. His words weren't comforting. They were raw, and they hit home. You can lose everything and still rebuild. But if you refuse to own your part in the wreckage, you'll keep burning every bridge you cross. Accountability isn't punishment. It's progress. Camilla exhaled, sharp and unsteady, as if something deep inside her had just cracked. The next morning, she sat down and wrote a letter. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a plea. It was a reckoning. "Adrian, you never let us have the fight." And that silence, that clinical refusal to engage, left a wound far deeper than anger ever could. "I won't try to excuse what I did. I confused attention for love. I followed a voice that glorified chaos and called it freedom. But the truth is, I broke myself. You didn't do that. And even in the quiet way you pulled away, you gave me more grace than I deserved. I don't need anything in return. I just wanted to acknowledge it, to thank you, for not humiliating me, for letting me fall without pushing, for showing me that silence can scream louder than any rage." Camilla. She sent it to the address of his new business. No name on the envelope, no follow-up, just a gesture, a letting go. Weeks passed without a word. Then, one evening, while fulfilling her volunteer requirement at a women's shelter as part of her court-mandated restitution, Camilla stepped out to grab a coffee from the diner nearby. A truck rolled into the lot. Same model. Same dent by the tail light. Camilla froze. Adrian climbed out, his work boots thudding softly on the wet pavement. His face wasn't hard or distant. It was calm, measured. "Hey, Camilla," he said, like they hadn't once reduced each other to rubble. Her throat tightened. "What are you doing here?" "I build things," he answered, gesturing toward the shelter. "They're expanding. I got the job." She let out a small, stunned laugh. "Of course you did." He paused. "I got your letter." Camilla nodded, slow and steady. "I didn't expect a response." "I didn't plan on one," he admitted. "But there's something I should say." She waited. "You were right," he said quietly. "I didn't fight. Not because I didn't care, but because if I had, I wouldn't have stopped. And I didn't want to become cruel just to get even." Tears pricked her eyes. "You still got your revenge." He gave a faint, almost regretful smile. "I didn't destroy you, Camilla. I just let you confront the mirror." A pause settled over them. "Are you happy now?" she asked at last. Adrian looked up at the half-built wing, scaffolding stretching into the mist. "I'm healing," he replied. "And that's more than enough." Camilla gave a slow nod. "Me too." They stood in the drizzle, side by side, two people who had razed each other to the ground, and somehow learned how to rise from the wreckage, changed but unbroken. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend, and if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.